Let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. It's rare that we address Georgia third on an episode like this. I feel like I'm used to addressing them first or second almost every single time. We did last year.
Yeah.
Georgia did end up winning the SEC last year. It's funny how going through all the research material, that's almost written off as a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah.
Don't know why that is, but Georgia won the SEC. They beat Texas twice. They did lose to Notre Dame in the college football playoff quarterfinal game. That was after Carson Beck got hurt, Gunnar Stockton at the helm. But Georgia had another solid season last year. They won the conference. It's just amazing to me how an 11-3 year can somehow feel underwhelming.
It's, by the way,
that's how it felt.
I went to the Colorado Rockies, Pittsburgh Pirates crazy comeback 17-16 game. By the way, great time. Coors Field, just a terrific time. Apparently the big thing, even though the Rockies are terrible, and I'm going to bring this back to Georgia football, I promise, is, you're down 7-0, but it's Colorado. Just keep swinging, right? Everything might be all right. Georgia last year, Carson Beck wasn't what felt like himself. The receiving room and tight ends room felt very different. They had to deal with a bunch of offensive line injuries. The defense didn't do anything specifically to that excellent Georgia standard. They get destroyed by Ole Miss, right? And I don't know, they beat Texas in Austin, I believe, and they just kind of kept swinging. And you're just like, screw it, things aren't great, just keep swinging, see what happens. And they stayed out there, they stayed locked in. They somehow beat Georgia Tech. That doesn't affect the SEC race. They end up beating, with Gunnar Stockton, Texas again in overtime, I believe, in the SEC championship game. They just kind of kept swinging. And that's kind of what really strongly together teams do. So I can appreciate that.
My dilemma with Georgia this year is the roster's obviously loaded.
Yes.
I yearn for star power. I yearn for more star power. So on one hand, they've got a hit with a new full-time starting quarterback in Gunnar Stockton. We saw a little bit, but he wasn't the full-time starter, at least not until after Carson Beck got hurt. Got a hit with him. You got a hit with a new interior line, a new cast of receivers. And by the way, they got to do it pretty quickly. On the other hand, I think the schedule is very much in their favor.
Agree.
And we talked about this in part one. That absolutely counts for something in the SEC. Good team, good roster. I think needs a little bit of seasoning before I'm ready to go all in on Georgia. But the schedule definitely makes that a little bit more possible. They've got some runway. What is the obvious question for you now as you look at Georgia? As you did all the research here, you dotted the I's, crossed the T's. What jumped out to you as the big thing?
I mean, kind of what I alluded to before when we talked about last year. What are they specifically going to do with all of this perceived talent that's going to ascend to the recent Georgia standard, right? Is it going to be Gunnar Stockton as the second coming of Stetson Bennett? Is it going to be the receivers locking in over the offseason and posing a threat? Is it going to be Nate Frazier as the second coming of, take your pick, Nick Chubb or whoever in the backfield? Right. Is it going to be some new guys on defense, especially in that secondary who got into the rotation last year, that they're going to be the second coming of, take your pick in the secondary over these past few years? Or who is the next great defensive lineman or edge guy or linebacker that is going to be drafted top 1, top 8, top 15, and that they are going to completely suffocate teams up front? They didn't do any of that last year. So I kind of hesitate that, counting on the passing game to be that thing. I don't think it's going to be there.
Okay.
My assumption is, and look, they can win the national championship with a decent passing game, but not an incredible one. My assumption is that the defense is going to take a significant step forward. That this coaching staff is going to recognize the shortcomings that they had at times last year. I mean, it wasn't that often, let's be clear. But sure. I think they're going to get better. I think up front, they're going to be faster. They're going to be more athletic. They're going to be nastier.
Dude, their linebackers are nuts.
They're ridiculous. I mean, the back end is ridiculous.
They're all good. They're all good. Whether you're looking at like C.J. Allen in the middle of the defense at linebacker.
Yeah.
KJ Bolden, who, by the way, as a true freshman,
Played a
was
ton.
drawing comparisons to Malachi Starks.
Mm-hmm. Who's gone?
Right. Who's gone. Daylen Everette, he's their corner, maybe has a first-round grade for this coming NFL draft as well.
And this secondary needs to get better, by the way. There's a ton of star power. They got lit up a couple times last year.
They do, and they do need to improve, but to the point, the defense is in a really, really good position. What I thought you were going to say in terms of big questions, and it's not the sexy one, offensive line, man.
I agree.
And I talked about this a little bit in part one. Like, we had Bill Connolly on this show towards the latter half of last season. We were trying to figure out in that conversation, what the hell's wrong with Georgia's offense right now? Why does it feel different? And he said, the line stinks. Maybe it doesn't stink the way that some others.
Well, when they
do
were
around
as beat
college
up as they
football.
were at times with Tate Ratledge, yeah.
But the line was not up to standard, and that affected everything. And so with the losses now that they have along the offensive line, are they going to be able to get back to their normal standard? They're rebuilding the entirety of the interior line here. It goes without saying that you need to have high-level line play if you want to win in the SEC, and I think that's doubly true for Georgia, especially under Kirby Smart. The best versions of this team have been really physical at the point of attack and have enabled them to beat your brains in on the ground. They got to get back to that, or at least closer to that, I think, if they want to excel this season. And that was one of the things that I think I gravitated towards when I was trying to figure out how does Georgia stack up this season with respect to their competition in the SEC. Now, the Gunnar Stockton question is a whole other one.
Is
Gunnar
he
Stockton,
good? Yeah.
Is he good? Yeah. He showed flashes, but I've read a lot of people questioning his decision-making in the playoff game against Notre Dame. You mentioned it on the last episode. Felt like the offense was a bit out of sync.
To be fair, he didn't drop passes against Notre Dame. That was the responsibility of others. Yeah.
There was, of course, that big fumble, I think, towards the latter half of the second quarter that swung things a little bit more in the direction of Notre Dame in that playoff spot. So we just have a big old incomplete right now with Gunnar Stockton. He has drawn some comparisons to Stetson Bennett with the way that they plays the game. You know, he's a bit of an improviser. He can find ways to make something out of nothing. So we just need to see more of it this year, see if he can shoulder that load. With the line questions, with the quarterback question, I think with the fact that they're trying to rebuild the receiver room, some exciting names that they bring in, but there is a lot new on this offense that remains to be seen. So you're not going to move Georgia lower than third on your SEC depth chart. I can't in good faith make that case, but I think it's wise to bring up that, yeah, there are a lot of new pieces here, at least on this offense, that we need to at least consider before we go all in on the Dogs.
Yeah, I don't love the combination of what Georgia brings back. I think Gunnar Stockton is going to be pretty good. I don't love the idea of Mike Bobo coordinating a national championship offense.
No.
I'm not there. I don't think there's going to be that spark like there was with Todd Monken running the show. And so that gives me pause. Also, like, the Stetson Bennett bar is the most successful quarterback in Georgia history. Let's be clear.
Yeah. I mean, when I draw that comparison, or I should say when others draw that comparison, I think they're focused more on attributes, obviously not on the production. Stetson Bennett was crazy productive. Gunnar Stockton has not fully had that opportunity yet.
Yeah.
If he can be 80% of Stetson Bennett, they would take it.
Well, of course.
They would absolutely take that. But again, to me, it comes back to the line, man. Can they run the ball? They brought over Josh McCray, too, from
Illinois,
who I think could fit nicely into that backfield. But, how the offense comes together, I think, is really, that's it.
Zachariah Branch from USC and his brother Zion, safety.
Noah Thomas from A&M.
Thomas, big receiver, trying to stretch the field a little bit more. They're searching on offense. They're definitely searching for players that they have not necessarily found out of the high school ranks, like everybody is, to be clear. They bolstered things on the edge with an Army transfer on defense, but yeah, that to me is the question. Like, is this team capable of scoring 30 points against a decent SEC team? I'm not sure I see it in August right now, but that doesn't mean they can't win games. It's just the manner in which they're winning games.
Now look, of the top SEC teams, Georgia's got the most favorable schedule.
I think that's right.
They only have 3 true road games: at Tennessee, at Auburn, at Mississippi State. You'll take those 3.
Yeah, non-conference before Georgia Tech, Marshall, Austin P, and Charlotte. Studies in bravery, Ty. Studies in bravery. Continue.
They've got 2 neutral siders. They've got the game against Florida in Jacksonville, and then in Atlanta to close out the year against Georgia Tech.
Right, but not Bobby Dodd.
Not Bobby Dodd. That's why I say neutral cider, but it's in Atlanta. 2 toughest games are at home, and that's Bama and Texas. Ole Miss might be the next toughest game on the slate, depending, I guess, how you feel about Florida. That game's also at home.
At Auburn, rivalry game on the road against what should be a pretty good team, and that's Auburn's in the middle of, Alabama, Kentucky, which, by the way, they were a gust of wind away from losing that game last year. Yeah. Kentucky at Auburn, Ole Miss. That's a tricky stretch.
What I like about this schedule, though, is there are no murderers rows, wounders rows, whatever we want to refer to them here on this show. Yeah. It seems like it is batched really nicely. They've got some runway in the beginning with Marshall, Austin P, and I think at Tennessee, who they should be better than, to break in Gunnar Stockton, break in this line and get things going. Tennessee should have a really, really good defense, so that'll be an early test.
Yes.
But then after a bye, that's when it starts up with Alabama. But then it throttles back down with Kentucky. The Auburn road game is the rivalry. That could be tough. And Ole Miss. That's the stretch, as you said, in the middle. I think this sets up pretty well for them. Of course, it's an SEC slate, so there are always going to be landmines here. The over-under again for this team is 9.5. I'm inclined to go over again. I haven't done the math here to know if there are enough wins to go around for all of these teams, but
right.
Alabama, Texas, Georgia, to me, I look at 9.5, and all of them feel like they are very easy overs.
I'm not there with Georgia.
No?
No. I'm not there with Georgia just because you give me offensive line, receiver, and quarterback questions, and coordinator questions. I have coordinator questions. Maybe Kirby Smart doesn't have coordinator questions. I don't know. And that specific schedule that I think they're going to be able to outcoach basically everybody on this schedule. We'll see with Alabama, but I think Kirby's a better coach than basically, if not everybody on this schedule. He's everybody on the schedule. He's more accomplished. He's just better. Yeah. So I don't think they're going to lose games because of, the head guy being a dum-dum or whatever. But I don't know. The star power on offense, the ability to change a game when it needs to be changed. I'm not there with Georgia. I don't have confidence in 10 wins. You got to give me 2 of those 4 or 5 things that I listed on offense for me to feel really, really good about 10 wins. Otherwise, they're just going to have to win a bunch of 17-13 games, and I just don't think you can count on that with as much offensive firepower as on that schedule. Look, here are the quarterbacks on this schedule. Joey Aguilar. Okay. So outside of Tennessee, which is going to be tough because that's on the road, and that's a good defense on the road. That's one of my, just take the points, right? Okay. Good defense on the road. Alabama, toss-up last year, and we don't know what we're getting from really either of these quarterbacks, but that's at home. At Auburn, that's firepower at receiver. Should be an offense that's really good, and there's a good defense at Auburn this year. Ole Miss, they lose a ton by, but Ole Miss loses a ton. Florida's got a potential first-round quarterback and should have star power on that offense. And Texas, we've already discussed. And Georgia Tech, hateful 3 stars. Is that what we agreed upon with Josh Pate? So, they were how many overtimes into the Georgia Tech game? And now it's away from home? I'm not there. So what did you say the over-under was? 9.5?
9.5, yeah.
I could be talked into the under with Georgia. I know that's kind of sitting on the fence, hedging, but that seems more realistic to me in this moment than Texas or Bama at that number.